So now we will move up from individual populations and communities and looking at general biogeographic patterns. Where do different types of things live? We can consider very large-scale versions of ecosystems, biomes. So these are a significant chunk of the Earth's surface and general climate, soil, and what lives there is similar across the region. Again, we saw the idea of a landscape earlier. Biomes will include many different landscapes within them. No surprise, on land, our big determinant is climate. Cooler, warmer, wetter, drier, these are our big things. Tundra, these are areas that are too cold for trees to grow. Well, sometimes there are trees that manage to get about that tall in a century or two. So basically no trees. You have small plants. These are places that have very long cold winters, short cool summers. From the tundra, we move to the boreal forest. These are typically dominated by conifers across, say, much of Canada to the northern US. Temperate deciduous forests, temperate rainforests. These both have a fair amount of rain, but the rainforest obviously a lot. The temperate rainforest, we see, for example, northwestern North America, southwestern South America are places that have those. Often a fair number of conifers. Winter doesn't get too cold, but summer doesn't get too warm either. Temperate deciduous forest, that's the natural vegetation around here. Deciduous, so losing leaves in the winter. Somewhat more seasonal variation, typical warmer summers, cooler winters often than the temperate rainforest areas. Temperate grassland, chaparral, savanna, and desert are all somewhat drier areas. Temperate grassland, so again, that's kind of mid-latitudes, say Great Plains, middle of the US would be a good example there. Areas with grasses, you have warmer summers, cooler winters, and it's dry enough that trees don't grow well, so dominated by grasses. Chaparral, again, somewhat drier, typically highly seasonal rain pattern, more rain in one season and rather dry in another. And so you tend to get, in chaparral settings, a lot of shrubby vegetation kind of spread out, a fair amount of bare ground in between. A good deal of Southern California would be chaparral. Israel, that's another good example. Much of Israel is chaparral. Of course, desert. Very dry relative to evaporation, the amount of rainfall per year. Deserts, these will have a fair amount of bare ground, sparse vegetation. Savanna is typically a somewhat more tropical, grassy area with trees here and there. And then, of course, tropical rainforests. Evergreen trees, now often they're broadleaf flowering plants, not conifers, but have the leaves year-round, very rainy, and quite a diversity of things living there. So here's a diagram version. How much rain per year, typical, or snow, and the average annual temperatures gives you an idea of rain. So no surprise, deserts in the relatively dry end, although as you get very cold, you reach the point where, okay, there's not much falling, but not much evaporating. So there's enough moisture staying around to have a bit different vegetation, and then the tundra, very cold, not much not much precipitation. Most of that is as snow. And we're getting into the winter, warmer over here, mid temperatures, cooler patterns there. So quick look at these in a little more detail piece. Tundra, we have it across the northern ends of northern continents and islands. So northern Alaska, northern Canada, northern Siberia, these types of places. Also towards Antarctica. Of course, much of Antarctica is under ice and doesn't particularly have much in the way of living things to be a biome. But on some of the islands off of Antarctica, you get tundra type vegetation as well. So again, no trees, snow gets melting in the summer, but pretty well covered over in the winter. Soils tend to be rather soggy, not so great in nutrients. Soggy because once you dig down enough, you have ice year-round, permafrost. And so what does melt in the summer runs into the ice as it sinks down and is stuck, and so you have very soggy, squishy ground in the summertime. Not too diverse, it's a rather harsh environment, so not too many things are able to tolerate it. You do have short, soft plants there, some with woody stems, but still very short. Basically, in conditions this cold, even into the boreal forest, any part of the plant that sticks out above the snow in winter is exposed to the winter winds, is not going to be doing well. So plants are characteristically relatively short here. Now we do have some things migrating. There are a number of birds that fly up to this area to nest in the summer. During the summer you do have high productivity as the plants are growing. This is close enough to the poles that you have very long days, so a lot of time with sunshine. Now it's relatively low angle, it's not warming stuff up nearly as much as in the tropics, but you do have the long days and growth with that. And with plants, then you get the bugs eating them. You also often have migration of the larger mammals. So for example, caribou or reindeer will walk long distances back and forth into the tundra more in the summertime, retreating back as we get towards the winter. Now, if you head for the poles, things get cooler, but also if you go up a mountain. And so tall enough mountains, you get tundra there as well. So this is known as alpine tundra, after the Alps mountains. And so on tall enough mountains, you'll have a tree line above which conditions are too cold for trees to grow well, and you just have these shorter plants. Now, big maps will have, those don't note the smaller patches like alpine habitats, things like that. Also, the textbook mentions example animals. After all, we're talking about biogeography, different things live in different places. It's not the same animals everywhere. So, for example, definitely the alpine tundra in South America does not have the same types of things as, say, alpine tundra in the Himalayas. So here's a picture of tundra. You see the plants all very short. Boreal forest, also known as taiga, covers a very large area, considered a very large biome. You have much of Canada, northernmost US, northern Europe, much of Siberia. Again, we can see similar habitats at high elevation in the mountains elsewhere also. Winter? Well, it's not as bad on the tundra. That's about all you can say about it. Total precipitation isn't that much, but it's so cold that not much is evaporating, and so there's a decent amount of water available in the soil. Dominated by conifers. Conifer needles are characteristically somewhat acidic, and so the soil tends to be more acid in these areas. Acid is good for dissolving away minerals, so the soils tend to be not so rich there. You do have some deciduous trees here and there, but it's the conifers that dominate. A variety of animals present. Again, a number migrate. A lot of birds that are flying past us now in the spring migration are headed to the boreal forest for nesting. A number of the smaller birds that migrate past here will be going to the boreal forest. All the way up on the tundra, those tend to be a bit bigger things. Some of the geese and ducks are up there. Some of the seagulls, sandpipers, things like that. Again, the caribou, reindeer, those migrate back and forth through these areas as well.